was on Wednesday that I heard that Bruce Kent had passed away. And I'd like to just play a short video that sort of tells us a bit about why he joined CND, why he got involved in the anti-nuclear campaign.
Probably Easter Monday of 1959, I had 5 weddings to get through on the High Street, Kensington, where I was. And all my brides turned up late, all of them. And I was furious. Well, why was this? And I looked out on the High Street and it was packed with all these people. I didn't know who they were. They were walking to Trafalgar Square. It was the second Aldermaston March. And I was quite angry. Why would they interfere with my activities? And then I began to think about it. And I met a really marvellous old man, the ex-Archbishop of Bombay. And he said what so many clerics did not say, was that if you intend to do something, if you do something wicked, fine, that's wicked, we know it's wicked. But if you prepare to and you're willing to do something wicked, that's wicked as well. And of course, they were always in those days weaving between the intention and actually doing it. And somehow one was unacceptable, but the other one was tolerable. Well, I never, you don't apply that to rape or to burglary or anything else. You wander around with a jemmy and a hacksaw with the possibility of going into a house to rob it. That's wrong. And so that's how I wasn't political in the slightest. I wasn't in the Labour Party or anything. I just thought this man, Roberts, was absolutely right. And so I then got involved in CND.
You know who the third most powerful man in the world is? President Reagan, President Chernenko, and the captain of a Trident submarine, who has 9 times the firepower of the Second World War on one boat. Now, you can't get more powerful than that.
When we see the starvation on television and remember how people are suffering around the world, let us remember that is happening because of the gross and disgusting waste on weapons, nuclear and conventional, in this world.
All I'm saying in a short speech before this platform descends again and I go back to Earth is that we can all be active, we can all change minds, and we bloody well ought to get on with it. Thank you.
There's lots of things we can do. One is redouble our efforts to get rid of all nuclear weapons. We now have a treaty which is legally in force, abolishing nuclear weapons, but it hasn't been ratified by enough states so far. We're having a meeting, this country is having a meeting, we haven't signed yet, having a meeting next summer, somewhere in Austria, I think, and I think that we should make every effort to make sure that Britain joins in. We are wasting money by the million on nuclear weapons, where we could be spending it on hospitals, education, public transport, and all those things.
And we're joined by Kate Hudson of CND. Kate, it's very sad that Bruce Kent has passed away, but he has left a fantastic legacy, hasn't he?
He has, Crispin, and it's a terrible loss, and that loss is felt by so many people. You know, the outpouring on social media, in the press, everywhere. You know, and so many anecdotes from people about just small kindnesses. You know, everyday fantastic things that Bruce did and that have stayed with people throughout their lives, and he was just amazing. And the thing that I remember most about him that was influential on me was that he never looked back. You know, he'd done so many amazing things, but he never once said to me or people in the office or whatever, oh, well, we used to do it like this. Oh, when we did this, he never did that. It was always, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do going forward? What could he do to help? You know, that was how Bruce was. He was just a complete man of action, and you could see that from your clips there. You know, most recently he spoke at the demonstration against the war on Ukraine. You know, just a matter of weeks ago. He was active right up until the end.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a gentle man. I mean, and not aggressive, and almost the embodiment of what someone in the peace movement should be like. I've read paper interviews about him, newspaper stories about him, where people were really aggressive to him, but they just couldn't seem to get through to him. Wasn't that a great quality that he had there?
It was a very very great quality. I mean, some people have said he was, very a mild-mannered guy, and yeah, he was very warm, and just really gave off love and humanity. But on the other hand, there was the side of Bruce, which I'm sure many of us know. He just didn't suffer fools gladly. He would just say it like it was, and if people were going on too long, he'd get impatient, and he didn't want to put up with any flannel. He really cut through that. I heard someone in the press saying, he talked to everybody the same. He didn't have one tone for people, at the top, and another one for the rest of us. He was just a completely straightforward person, and more than anyone else, speaking truth to power, just completely uncompromising, 100% principled, really decent and kind person.
And the thing is, I mean, I obviously saw him in the 1980s around the sort of Greenham Common time. I read that CND wasn't in a very good space before he came in. Can you tell us what he did to improve CND?
Yes, well, he became General Secretary in 1980, and although lots of work had been done in the 1970s, CND was a relatively small organisation, and in fact, someone described the 1970s as the shoebox years because all the membership cards of CND could be fitted into one shoebox. So it was like maybe we had 4,000 members or something like that, and because Bruce's coming in as Gen Sec more or less coincided with the announcement that cruise and Pershing missiles were going to come to Europe, but there was going to be 160 coming to Britain, to Greenham and to Molesworth, and then the government also announced it was going to introduce Trident. It's like Bruce was kind of thrown in at the deep end, and a kind of lesser mortal might have kind of floundered or been overwhelmed. But no, Bruce was just completely out there straight away, embracing all these new groups that were spinning, just cups being set up spontaneously almost. And he welcomed them all into CND. So it's a sort of massive united movement. And I think, in a matter of a year or two, CND's membership had grown from about 4,000 to 90,000, and we went from, maybe a few dozen local groups eventually to 1,000 local groups. And if you don't mind, I just want to read this little quote from him, what he said about this time, his way of harnessing the support. He said, week by week arrived more letters, more membership applications, more callers, more journalists, more requests for speakers, orders for badges and leaflets. Our 2 small office rooms were jammed with volunteers. By the end of 1980, we were in new offices, themselves becoming too small. New memberships poured in by the hundreds every week. The graph which we had on the wall outgrew the wall and had to be taken across the ceiling. That's how it was, and he was such a, he just would take it in his stride and, pull all these people in and pull them together. And he had such an inclusive approach, very welcoming. And it was also really killed on building alliances across civil society. It wasn't just, this is us, this is CND, we are it kind of thing. It was a kind of very embracing and building, and that kind of alliance building, inclusive thing stayed with him throughout his work, all his life.
Well, thank you for coming on. I mean, is there any way we can? Are you doing a marking his death? Are we celebrating his CND putting on any events or plans for that?
There will be. Obviously, this will be done together with Bruce's family. And so we're obviously we need a few days to, before announcing events, but there will obviously be such things. And one of the things that CND is planning to do is to have an online photographic exhibition, because we've got so many photos of Bruce, but we're also going to be inviting members and supporters to send in photographs for the exhibition. If people have got specific memories they want to share, we're going to have an online memories exhibition too. So we want all our members and supporters, everyone who's ever known Bruce, to be able to share that just incredible strength of feeling and that recognition of him as really a giant of the movements here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and let us know what you've got planned, and I hope we can speak to you later about that. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Crispin.
Could I just endorse everything that Kate Hudson said earlier about Bruce Kent? He was a great friend of mine over many, many years. He lived quite near to me, and he inspired the peace movement to an incredible degree. From his background as a Catholic priest to become a great peace activist, driven by faith, driven by belief, but driven by a sense of humanity. And the last thing he attended locally was an iftar supper at the local mosque to show his support for the local Muslim community. Bruce is one of a kind, and I think we should just remember him and thank him and CND and his family for everything that he did.